So another wrestling article. This one about Shawn Michaels and Bret the Hitman Hart. And it is from May 1990 of the WWF Magazine. And here we go. It promised to be a dream matchup. Bret Hitman Hart and Shawn Michaels, components of two of the World Wrestling Federation's most dynamic tag teams. The Hart Foundation and the Rockers, respectively, agreed to test each other's heralded talents in a singles bout. What followed was a dazzling display of wrestling scientifics and grueling combat, even after the contest became inflamed to the point that the referee had to call for a double disqualification. Each gladiator left with great respect for the other. I didn't expect anything less, stated the handsome Michaels, unwinding in the dressing room with partner Marty Jannetty after the bell. When you sign on the dotted line against Bret Hitman Hart, you sign to fight a hurricane. I had to give it all I had, and if you ask me, I came out of the battle looking pretty good. He touched a bump above his left eye and joked, "This'll heal fine, and soon I'll be breaking hearts again." But the first thing on my mind right now is Bret Hart. What I wouldn't do to step in the ring with him again and gain a decisive victory. Several yards down the corridor, the mood was the same. Hart and teammate Jim the Angel Neidhart looked at one another and grinned. "Tough kid," Neidhart muttered. Hitman shook his head. "He fought some match. My ears are still ringing from his punches. I'd love to say I didn't know he had it in him, but that's not true. The reason I wanted this match is I knew that Shawn Michaels is a fabulous wrestler. I'll give him this. He knows how to mix it up. I guess next time I'll have to play a little bit harder." In the stands, the fans were almost as winded. The bout had been so intense that it seemed to blur past the spectators. When one man applied a punishing hold, the other was quick with a counter. As soon as the referee broke a clutch, the grapplers were tangled up again. When the combatants decided to start bending the rules, nothing less than a four-man brawl, starring the Rockers and the Hart Foundation, followed. These guys didn't let up for a single second, observed manager Bobby the Brain Heenan, normally on the opposite side of both competitors. I'm not saying that either of these chumps could beat one of my men, but I still watched the match with interest, because Hart and Michaels are similar types of wrestlers. I figured I'd see strategies different from what they use against members of the Heenan family. That's a key to smart managing, pal. Learn their repertoires and use the knowledge to your advantage. Heenan was intrigued by this contest. While the manager is short on praise for his foes, his interest in the Hart-Michaels confrontation can be interpreted as a compliment to both men. By taking meticulous notes on the match, Heenan sent out a clear message. Hart and Michaels are at the top of their profession and pose a threat to every other wrestler. The information not news to the battlers. The bout had come through mutual respect, coupled with a desire to overcome a formidable challenge. Michaels was clearly the hungrier of the two, and his thirst for greatness was understandable. In Hart, he saw an accomplished athlete, solid in technical skills and proficient in fisticuffs, who had made it as both a singles and tag team grappler. With Neidhart, Hitman had held the WWF Tag Team Championship. In individual competition, he had established himself as a contender for the WWF Championship and Intercontinental titles, and he was even profiled in a special issue of WWF Spotlight. Hart was just as anxious to log a victory. Despite Bret's apparent youth, he has grown into a hardened veteran of the mat wars, and he wanted to ensure that he had not grown rusty. Hitman viewed Michaels as one of the wrestling's new breed, one who rebels against the conventions of ring combat and who improvises and innovates in each match. The moves utilized by the Rockers impressed Hitman, and he admitted feeling twinges of envy. Hadn't he also been labelled a spectacular new force in the early days of the Hart Foundation? From the dressing room entrance, Bret watched the Rockers wage war with the mountainous powers of pain. He was reminded of the Foundation's brave encounter with Andre the Giant in the closing moment of WrestleMania 2's Battle Royal. He wanted a bout with Michaels to test himself. Rather than being divided in its loyalties, the crowd was solidly behind both wrestlers, giving each a rousing cheer as he made his way to the ring with his regular tag team partner. To offer moral support, or perhaps expecting the mayhem inevitable when two fiercely determined athletes square off, Jannetty and Neidhart remained at ringside after the bell rang. The match began in a sportsmanlike fashion, and it seemed relatively even. They locked up, collar to elbow, with Michaels backing Bret to the turnbuckles. The Rocker broke the hold, detaching himself from his foe. When they tangled again, Hitman applied a reverse wrist lock. Michaels wiggled, loosened his opponent's grip, then slipped behind Hart and clapped on a hammerlock. Bret displayed his experience by reversing the maneuver. The fireworks that would be seen later in the match were ignited in the manner in which Michaels broke the hold. He thrust his elbow backward into Bret's throat. The gesture was hardly a whack with a closed fist or a kick to the ribs, but it qualified as roughhousing. Hart recovered swiftly. He caught the Rocker in a reverse atomic drop and levelled him with a meteor of a clothesline. A snap mare appeared to disable Michaels further, but the war was just beginning. Whether the Rocker had exaggerated his injuries or recovered from the brink of defeat by pure heart, he still will not say. What is known is that Michaels began fighting as if he had never been hurt. He slid out of the way of his foe's elbow drop and did some fancy spinning in midair to land on his feet after a backflip. Hart turned around to be blasted by a drop kick. Seeing Hitman sprawl on the canvas, Michaels went for the kill. His planning was premature. Bret waited for his opponent to mount the top rope before gripping him from underneath and hurling him across the ring. Possibly embarrassed by Michaels' good showing, Hitman got tough and unleashed forearms and elbows. Tempers were starting to flare. Michaels contained his anger long enough to avoid a side suplex, doing a 360-degree turn while being lifted, landing on his feet and body slamming Hitman. Again, both men ran the ropes. This time it served neither's advantage, as they elbowed one another and hit the mat simultaneously. A classic moment occurred when they rose and took turns exchanging suplex attempts. The defensive skills of each were so refined that neither could accomplish his task. Frustrated, they wrestled into the corner. Neither wished to break. Asserting his authority, the referee wedged between them. When separated, they could not wait to duel again. Words were exchanged, then shoves. Bret clocked his adversary. Jannetty stepped onto the apron to argue with and then punch Hitman. Neidhart chimed in, was slugged by Michaels. Within seconds, the ring was flooded with WWF officials trying to restore order in a four-way free-for-all. Remarkably, the bad feelings were left in the ring. Each man recognizes the other's gutsiness, and each will go so far as to compliment the rival tag team. Both the Rockers and the Hart Foundation pledge support for each other if it is needed, but if it is not, Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels cannot wait to tear into each other again. So, another good article, and I hope you're enjoying them as much as I am.